Second in our series on the Ten Commandments, God's top 10. Remember last week, or those of you who were not with us last week, we talked about the Ten Commandments beginning before thou shalt not. Remember how that was? How did the Ten Commandments begin? I am the Lord your God, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. So that the Ten Commandments begin not with a command, but with a deliverance. So today we are going to look in a little more detail as to what the Ten Commandments are all about. But before we do that, let me share with you, well, what I find to be one of the most amusing stories in the Bible. It's actually Exodus 32. When the people saw that Moses was long coming down from the mountain, he'd been gone for several weeks. Now let's get a little perspective here. They had been out of Egypt now for about 3 months. What had they been eating? Manna. What had they been drinking? Water out of the rock. That ought to tell you something, shouldn't it? How are you surviving here? You've been delivered. You're eating God's bread. You're drinking God's water. He has spoken to you of the deliverance. But people saw Moses had been gone a long time. They gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us." What? You mean you don't like the water and the bread you're getting? Somebody else is going to do this for you? As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. So Aaron, verse 4, took what they handed him and made an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Now that's an important line. Fashioning it with a tool. Remember that. Then they said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt." Verse 7, Moses and God are together. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people who you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf." Okay, what did it say? It was made with a tool. It was cast in the shape of a calf. I had to tell you this because what's coming up next is absolutely astonishing. Funny in a terrible way. Verse 19. When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hand, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf they had made and burned it in the fire. Then he ground it and poured it and scattered it on the water and made Israel drink it. He said to Aaron, "What did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?" Now, who is he talking to? Aaron. Who is Aaron? His brother. Who else is Aaron? The very first high priest. Ooh, that's heady stuff, isn't it? I mean, the high priest. And this is the first one. Now get this story. This beats the dog ate my homework all to bits. "Do not be angry, my lord," Aaron answered. "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." So I told them, "Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off." They gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Voila! I mean, talk about an excuse. This is the high priest. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Wow, that's a stunner of a story, isn't it? The extent to which people, and we are people, will go to try and justify their absolutely ludicrous behavior. So, having done that, now let's ask the question, what is this law? Well, what is the law? Seems like a simple question. But before you snicker at that, Let me tell you, it's not that easy. What is a law? Is it the Ten Commandments? Well, yeah, that's a law. Or how about Murphy's Law? Is that a law? You know Murphy's Law. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and at the worst possible moment. Around our house, we have one that is known as Patterson's Law, and it has been passed down from generation to generation now. And Patterson's Law says every project will take longer than it should. There is a corollary to that law, which also says every law will cost more than you plan. I mean, not law. Every project will cost more than you plan. What is the law? Is it the law of gravity? Well, yeah. There's a law of gravity. Or is it the speed limit? There's another law. There was even a book came out a few years ago called The Book of Silly Laws. I won't take time to read any of it to you, but if you ever get a chance, read some of the absolutely nonsense laws that we have in this country. And I'm sure we're not the only country that has them. So what is it? What is a law? Is it a codified observation of nature? Is there a law of the orbit of the earth around the sun? Okay, well, that's a law. Is it a requirement of authority? Well, when you go to school, you learn about that, don't you? There's laws there, rules we call them. Is it guidelines for safety? Well, yes, probably. Or is it uncontrollable and inevitable outcomes? If you jump off of a cliff, okay, there's a law, isn't there? Uncontrollable, inevitable outcomes. Obviously, some laws are more significant than others. Murphy's Law is not as important as the speed limit. Although if you're speeding down the road on your way to an important appointment and you get arrested, Murphy's Law may kick in as well. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness." Well, actually, I would rather have somebody bear false witness about me than murder me. So some laws are more important than the other. The consequence is not as final of someone lying about me as it is someone killing me. As a general rule, I would rather have somebody lie to me than to destroy me. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus attempts to put all of this into the context of relationships. But we get all legalistic about it. He said, "He who hates his brother is a murderer already." Well, I would rather have somebody hate me than kill me. Or he says, "Whoever looks upon a woman with lust has committed adultery already in his heart." Is looking with lust as bad as actually doing it? Well, I think not. Now, what he is saying here is not that anger is equal to murder or that lustful thoughts are equal to adultery. What he is saying is he is calling us to reform in both of the areas, both the act and the thought. Jesus appeals to the same when he says, "If you have broken one commandment, you are guilty of all." Now, does this mean that if I tell a lie, I'm guilty of murder? No, that doesn't make any sense. That's absurd. What does it mean? What is he saying? He is saying that the commandments are a total relational package. And when the package is broken anywhere, the relationship is destroyed. Now, how can I help you understand that? Well, there's three different kinds of law. We're going to unpack this a bit. There's the law of sin, there's the law of love, and the law of worth. We're going to look at all three of these. First, the law of sin. God did not set up the Ten Commandments in order to destroy you. He set up the Ten Commandments in order to deliver you. What a difference. Deliver you from what? Deliver you from the law of sin. God does not say, "If you break my law, I will kill you." What he says is this: if you follow the law of sin, it will kill you. What a difference. The Apostle Paul makes it very clear in his treatise on the law in Romans 7, and I'll not take time to read that, but he says, is the law sin? Certainly not. The law is holy and just and good. The only problem he has with the law is that it shows that he is not holy and just and good. And trying to use the law to save himself does not do it. The law is not designed for us to work at saving ourselves. The law is designed to bring righteousness to us. The law of sin is the condemnation. Then there's the law of love. And here's an interesting comment that I really like by Ellen White, a little book called The Faith I Live By. She says, the law of 10 precepts of the greatest love that can be presented to man is the voice of God from heaven speaking to the soul and promise. This do, and you will not come under the control and domination of Satan. There is not a negative in that law, although it may appear thus. It is do and live. God delivers us from the law of sin by the law of love. But how do we understand this package of God's law? Well, I've asked some of the members of the praise team to help me this morning because I'm going to make a diagram for you. A real live person diagram to help us understand. Steve, come and help me. I want you to stand right here. Right there. Steve is the fifth commandment. Now, I picked him because the fifth commandment is the transition, the big, solid foundation in the middle of the law. It's the one that holds the two sections, of the law together. First section is love to God. Second section is love to fellow man. And the fifth commandment says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long on the land the Lord your God gives you. And that is the core, the heart, the basis, the solid centerpiece of the Ten Commandments that holds it all together. The family, the basis of our understanding of God, the basis of our society. So this core, this heart, this center of the Ten Commandments becomes terribly important as we hold them all together. Now, some interesting things happen with the rest of them. First commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. The sixth commandment, you shall not kill. Now, obviously, we can kill one another. But you can't kill God, can you? Well, maybe you can. Maybe the way you kill God is to deny him as your God and put something else in his place. Remember several years ago, there was a popular notion going around the death of God, that society had just divorced themselves from God. And so, in effect, they had killed God by denying his existence. So the first and the sixth commandment exist on the level of right to existence. Right to existence. You two. Yeah, two of you. Okay, let's put you right here on this side. Stand on the bottom step here, and we'll hook you into the law right here. And we'll bring you on this side, and we'll hook you into the law right here. You're the first commandment. If you love God, you'll have no other gods before him. You will believe in his existence. If you don't love God, you'll abandon him. You will have killed God. If you love your fellow man, you will not kill them. You will allow their right to existence. So the first and the sixth commandment exist at the most basic level, the right to existence. All right, let's move on. The second and the seventh commandment. Come and help me. You two. Yeah, okay. And let's alternate here. You be on this side. And get next step up, right behind, right there, right there. We'll do better at this on second service. Okay. The first level is what? Right to existence. The second commandment and the seventh commandment, interestingly, are at the level of the right to purity of relationship. Thou shalt not commit adultery. What did God say when Israel wandered away and worshipped other gods? What did he accuse them of? Spiritual adultery. Something that is adulterated means that something impure has been mixed in with it. Any chemists in the audience? If you have a flask full of good, pure, distilled water and you put something else into it, what happened to it? You adulterated it. You mixed something into it that was not pure anymore. So the next level, first level is the right to existence. The next level is the right to purity in the relationship. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not worship other gods. Okay, the next level. Come and join me. Okay, this side. Next on the next step. Step up on one more there. Okay, get all connected in. Now, okay, the first, second, third. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Thou shalt not steal. What can you steal from God? Well, His good name. If you are taking the name of God in vain, if you are using it improperly, and of course we oftentimes connect this with foul language and swearing, but it's so much more than that. Claiming to be something that you are not, and in claiming to be that you are God's children when you are not, you are destroying God's name. You are taking from Him, you are stealing from Him His good name. Thou shalt not steal. The right to possessions. What you have and own is yours. Someone cannot come and take them away from you. You are delivered from someone coming and taking things by this commandment. So we have the first level is the right to existence. The second level is the right to purity of relationship. The third level is the right to possessions. Now, the fourth and the ninth commandment. Okay, you come over here. You want it to be the fourth commandment. There you go. Right up there. Okay. Step right. Can you get right in behind there so we're all a tight package? Here, scoot up on the next step so they can see you better. There you go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now this one is a little harder to comprehend because we move out of the area of physical things, existence, possessions, purity, and all of that. We move into a sanctified level where our relationship exists not just with things. It exists with how we interact with one another. And it is an interesting thing. It says, you shall not bear false witness. Well, technically, that means testifying against someone things that are not true. But not only does it protect you from being falsely accused, it also protects you from receiving false information. It's the whole area of truth. And it's an interesting thing what Scripture says. Sanctify them through the truth. Your word is truth. It's a whole other level. Things that not exist physically, but exist in the mind. A sanctified relationship. Then the Sabbath, the Bible tells us, is a sign of sanctification between us and God. It's another level. It's a level that exists inside your head, not just inside your body. So that's the Ten Commandments. Right? There's another one? What's the next one? Thou shalt not covet. Oh, that's kind of a waste, isn't it? I mean, What's that all about? Thou shalt not covet. Who's going to know? Okay, we need a 10th commandment. And I've asked Big John to help me with this. Because, in fact, this may be the most important one of all. Just turn around here, John. Pull them tight together. Yeah. That 10th commandment, that insignificant throwaway commandment, becomes the shield and protector of the whole package. Because before I can get at any one of them, first I have to get through Big John. So let's say that I decided to pick on the 6th commandment. She looks like a size that I could handle. But I can't get there because John is in my way. So that the 10th commandment, first of all, has to be breached before the devil can get to any of the other 9. And it becomes that throwaway commandment, becomes perhaps the most important of all, because it takes place in my own head. And God is delivering me from attack on all the rest, because first I have to breach the 10th commandment. I want to take something that belongs to someone. First I have to covet it. I want to spend my time doing what I want to on my Sabbath day. First I have to covet it. And so we go through the list. It is a package. Do you understand now why it says when you have broken one, you're guilty of all? Because the package just falls apart. So let's see what happens if we take the covet commandment away. Okay. Now we're free to pick wherever we want. But first of all, we've still got this family holding us together. So let's take him out of there too. I don't really have to say any more about that, do I? It is a package. It is something that is held together interior, bound together exterior, protecting the levels of our lives and existence, and having a corollary in our relationship with God. Thank you. But I mentioned the law of worth. What about the law of worth? We know what the law of sin is. We see what the law of love is. What is the law of worth? Well, if I can't do anything to earn my own salvation, if my worth is of no value in the sight of God for my behavior, my striving, if indeed my worth can only be measured in the light of redemption, then what I read in the book of Revelation begins to make sense for the law of worth. Revelation 5, verse 11. Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elder. In a loud voice they sang, "Worthy is the Lamb that was slain, to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory, and praise. Can you imagine that chorus with thousands upon thousands, 10,000 times 10,000, singing, "Worthy is the Lamb"? Maybe if we just listen carefully, we can pick up a few strains of that song today.